All right, it's Tuesday. It's around 9ish. Um, Mike's not here, so you got me starting us off. It is Go Horns and Fight Songs. I am Wes. Joining me from the warmish state of Arizona. I think it's a little warmer than it is up here in Michigan. Uh, Writer for, no, contributor for a bunch of different podcasts that I'll let him tell you all about because there's a few of them. Tweeter for Let's Mull It Over. Big ASU supporter, Thomas Harden. Thank you for joining us, Tom.
Thanks, Wes. Glad to be on.
Intro needs a little work. I don't have it all written down yet. But so fill us in on some of the other things that you contribute for so people know where to find you if you're not here.
First and foremost, my regular shows are on Monday night with College Hockey Coast to Coast. We broadcast live every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be wrapping up our partner show, which has been counting down to the World Junior Championships. That show being called the World WJC Fantastic 50 Years, in advance of the World Junior Tournament coming up in the Twin Cities. Both of those found on Podbean, and you can find them on your favorite podcast platform of choice the next day. For my written content, that is all on devilsindetail.com, part of the Fansided Networks. All the news covering Arizona State University athletics.
So a bunch of stuff all over the place. Does a lot of good work. We enjoy having him here when he contributes here. So once again, thank you for joining us. We are in the middle of the season. I think there's only one team playing this weekend, maybe.
The only series this weekend is Omaha and Augustana.
Yeah, I knew it. I remembered. My brain's working. I just woke up from a nap. I'm sorry. So let's go with, while we're here in the middle of the season, what's something that's a positive surprise to you at the midway point of the season so far?
Well, our friend Mike here isn't here to hear me give some good graces his way, but honestly, the Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs have been a very pleasant surprise. This last year they had a bit of a down year, bit of a revolving door at goaltender, and seeing Adam Guyon get the vote of confidence from Scott Sandelin, that's really helped him step into that role and be a true number one, and having the easiest top line in all of college hockey to write in with the Plant Shagabe line is never a bad thing for Scott Sandelin. But seeing the Bulldogs near the top of the NCHC standings after finishing in 7th last year, that's been a very pleasant surprise for me.
Yeah, no, they're definitely taking a big step forward, and they're not a bad team or not a unpleasant team to watch. I got to watch them a couple weeks ago up close and personal. Guyan is playing extremely well. He finds the puck really, really well, at least on Fridays. Saturdays, a little bit different team. They've got to figure out how to play consistently in the conference. 7-5 record in conference, 2-2 in the overtime period. So definitely still got some time to find their best hockey. But I mean, Sandlin's a really good coach, and he finds a way to get his guys dialed in when it matters most and late in the season. So I definitely expect them to be a team up there as we get close to the postseason and make a solid run in both the conference tournament and the national tournament this year.
If they can find a way to play all of their games on Fridays, they'll be golden because they're 10-0 on Friday games.
Yeah, it's interesting how some of that stuff happens. I know Western's done that a couple times where they'll go on a run of Friday wins, and then later, like the next month, it'll be all Saturday wins. But yeah, just finding that consistency 2 nights in a row is really the only downside to the Duluth game right now. For me, I think the slight surprise is North Dakota being number 1 at the midway point. 25 points through 10 games played, 8-2 record, 1 overtime loss. There was quite a bit of transition there. They seemed to find the right guys. Head coach was a promotion, so that kind of helps add some stability. But just the fact that they lost a lot of their top end guys either to being graduation and signing pro deals, or a couple guys who they were expecting to be there long term, deciding they weren't okay with the coaching change or whatever it may have been, and trying to leave for what was perceived as greener pastures, but maybe not so much.
Yeah, the old adage is the grass may be greener on the other side, but all credit to Dane Jackson for the job that he's done. He's really starting to bring back the North Dakota of old, teams that you grew accustomed to seeing throughout the 2000s and into the 2010s. And I think he's just done an absolutely tremendous job with this roster and really found a diamond in the rough with Jan Spoonar just coming in as a true freshman and being an absolutely dynamite goaltender. He continued the Tempe to Grand Forks pipeline in getting Gibson Homer away from the Sun Devils, and Homer has really he's starting to see that maybe this wasn't the best opportunity after seeing TJ Sumtenfelter go up for last season, but sometimes that's just how the breaks are. You never really know what you have coming in that freshman class until you see them out on the ice. And Spoonar in particular has been absolutely just off the charts.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, a couple negative surprises might be Omaha, the struggles that they've had. I mean, granted, they flip over their roster, went in a completely different direction as opposed to what seems like everybody else, signing a lot of guys from Canada, CHL players, U Sports players, um, but they seem to be struggling with the NCAA game and just getting into games and not quite finding themselves. Now they deal with like Cozy going down to an injury. Um, they had gotten a couple of good starts from Dawson, but he seems to have struggled a little bit. Struggled against Western, struggled against North Dakota. A lot of teams are going to struggle against North Dakota, but yeah, them kind of falling all the way into eighth right now is a little bit of a surprise. 3-7 in conference, 6-10 overall. Um, Mike Abinet's got to find a way to get that team going, or he's gonna, this is not what we were expecting after the success that they had last year.
Agreed. Omaha is one of those teams that I had pegged right around the 4-5 line, fighting for home ice this season, and just seeing how they've completely fallen off and not, really haven't been able to gain any traction in NCHC play. You mentioned Lacozy going down with an injury. It's just going from bad to worse for the Mavericks, and you know you hope for just the overall competition within the conference that they can figure out a way to right the ship, but it's going to be a tough slog throughout a loaded back half of the NCHC schedule. And then I also want to call out a surprise that's turning into a little bit of a little bit of a dud is Miami, just absolutely coming out of nowhere to start out 8-0 on the season, and well, as has been the case for the last few years, NCHC play for them is an equation they can't solve. Only 1-6 in conference play, uh, 2 overtime wins and 1 overtime loss, but you're looking at a 10-6-2 overall record. It was always going to be a better team than last year for Anthony Noreen, but you kind of get the feeling that the the false start to the season gave a little bit of maybe false hope for the Red Hawk faithful.
Yeah, they're an interesting team too. I mean, he went and tried to find some players that he had familiarity with, both coming from Tri City that he had coached while he was there, um, and guys who were familiar with them. Um, and I think he's still trying to build what he wants to build there at Miami. And the thing with that though is I think there's going to be even more pressure on Miami next year with St. Thomas coming into the program and knowing that the coach that they gave away and haven't really found success since letting him go is coming back to the conference, and will compete against them directly as opposed to just kind of existing in the CCHA with any real end goal aside from a CCHA championship. They're going to be eligible for the the tournament at the end of the year if they can get there. Blasi has shown that he could be successful in the NCHC with a Miami team, and has shown that he could put together some really good teams at St. Thomas. So it's only going to get harder for Miami if they can't figure out how to be competitive in this conference going forward.
And you know that Blasi is, looking forward to this opportunity to go up against his former team and, bring the new fresh face in St. Thomas into the conference next year. It's going to be some exciting matchups when they play for the first time next year.
Yeah, whether that's at St. Thomas or Miami, but that first trip back that first trip for St. Thomas to Miami is going to be one to watch. Whether it's an early season game, a late season game, or just kind of right in the middle, because they're not going to be travel partners or rival teammates or teams. So they'll get each other at least once a year. They'll rotate for that second one. But yeah, those two teams or that series is going to be full of storylines for sure. Some sort of related NCHC news, not quite direct news, but interesting trend happening the last couple weeks. We're seeing some guys leave programs in the middle of the season more so than we've seen in the past. The only one that really stands out similarly would be a few years ago when I think it's LaFontaine from Minnesota signed with the Carolina Hurricanes over the Christmas break, leaving college to play pro. Now, unfortunately, that did not work out great for him. But there's been a couple pro signings. One being, where'd he go? Oh, Caleb Thiessen from St. Cloud State signed with the Rapid City Rush, the ECHL, moving over after playing 5 games for the Huskies this year. And then you've got a guy who also signed a deal.
Yes, Lucas Sillinger, after playing out his career, finishing his career in Tempe, had some off-season surgery last year, so was not signed directly out of college, but did sign a tryout contract with the Iowa Wild and made his practice debut today. So good to see Lucas getting back to it.
And then some other news: Western Michigan picked up a commit from a goalie, Luke Kurthers, from the U.S. development team, has committed to Western Michigan. So that could be 3. He would be the 3rd goalie with ties to the U.S. development team to play for Western in the last couple of years. Cam Rowe not being a direct commit, he came by way of Wisconsin to us, and then Hampton Lukinski representing Team USA in the development program and also the World Juniors team, and now Luke. So wearing out that small strip between Kalamazoo and Plymouth.
It's they're beating a path, that's for sure. The movement that I've been tracking over the first half of the season is Shika Gadzhiev for Miami. Comes in out of the USHL from Muskegon, I believe. Very highly touted goaltender, was set to come in as a freshman, but ongoing eligibility issues, academically related, not necessarily grades, more so from what I'm gathering is high school equivalency was preventing him from playing. And actually, when Miami was on the road in St. Cloud before going to Belfast for the Friendship Tour, Gadzhiev was back overseas taking and passing his high school equivalency to then put it back to the NCAA for their final approval. Ultimately, the NCAA ruled against him, and he left the Redhawks program, signed with the Cincinnati Cyclones late last week.
I mean, I'm glad he got signed by somewhere close so he doesn't have to pack up and move all of his stuff. Cincinnati is not too far from Oxford. They're both kind of at the bottom there of Ohio, but Oxford is literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere. And I hate driving in Ohio.
I've looked at it on a map and I'm just thinking, what is there to do aside from campus?
Nothing. There's nothing there.
It reminds me of when I toured northern Colorado during my senior year of high school, and I'm thinking the same thing. There's a Walmart 20 minutes away. That's not going to do it.
You might be lucky if there's a Walmart 20 minutes away from Oxford. Like, I drove there once. I might do it again because I hate myself. But the Ohio highway system is the absolute worst, and this thing is tucked in the southwest corner, and there's no highways that get there. It is like backcountry roads because Ohio doesn't understand that you can have more than one main highway going north and south through that state.
I
That's
can confirm having traversed Ohio in the past.
that's beside the point. What else we got before we dive into what we were going to talk about, or I was going to let you and Mike talk because my team didn't play this week. Brandon
Um,
Bussey making his NHL debut this season and absolutely crushing it. Fastest goaltender to 10 wins, winning 10 out of 11, and I think he's now up to 11 out of 12. 9 in a row or 10 in a row here as of late, including a couple shootout wins. I believe he has one shutout to his credit. Couple wins over Philly, a win over Washington, Kings, but just playing some incredible hockey and a guy who has earned it every step of the way. It was not an easy road by any means for him. Kind of got stuck in a logjam there of goalies in Boston. Played out his first contract there in the AHL. Was supposed to be, thinking he was going to be playing in sunny Florida. They decided to put him on waivers, and Carolina pounced right on it at the beginning of the season, and he hasn't left the NHL since.
well, speaking of players from our respective programs to be making waves in the NHL, Ty Murchison, defender for Arizona State, also same graduating class as Lucas Sillinger, made his NHL debut last week for the Philadelphia Flyers. Played in 3 games. He has since been reassigned back to Lehigh Valley with the addition of Ristolainen to the active roster. But good on Ty for becoming the 4th Sun Devil to make it to the NHL and make his debut.
I know some guys on the Lehigh Valley roster, some familiar names. Almost every team is just turning into like an NCHC all-star team. If you dive deep enough into where everybody's at, it's kind of fun to do every once in a while.
And you can even look at NCHC players being selected for the World Juniors coming up next week. 9 players from the conference on the various national teams, 5 for Team USA, 3 for Team Canada, 1 for Sweden, and I believe 1 for Switzerland.
Yep. Let's see. We got the one matchup this weekend. Let's dive into some of the matchups last weekend. We had some. Oh, actually, there's a question I have for Paul because he is in the chat. Can you elaborate on what you mean, Paul? Because I think you're asking about the new schedule for starting next year, going back to rival travel partners. I think is what you're talking about there for the NCHC schedule. As far as I know, it's going back to basically rivals. So Denver and Colorado will once again play, or will go back to being buddies. Uh, Omaha leaves North Dakota and instead becomes travel partner with Arizona State. So they will play twice a year, once in Omaha, once in Arizona. Western and Miami will stay buddies. St. Thomas and North Dakota, I believe is
St. Thomas and St. Cloud.
Yes, that's right. And then Duluth and North Dakota will be travel buddies. So you'll play them. They're your guaranteed 2 series a year. And then I think it's one other team you'll play 2 series, and everybody else is on a rotating schedule, or everybody else rotates, but playing 1 or 2 every year after that, or every year.
And it's keeping the same 24 game conference schedule as well.
Yeah. So still 24. Play everybody at least once. 2 you will play twice, one of which is your rival partner. And they're going back to that being the final weekend of the year will be the rivalry weekend. I hate that word. That's a stupid word.
And also the NCHC tournament will expand to include all 10 teams. First round will be 1v10, 2v9, etc. Then the Friday night in between the quarterfinals and the semifinals will be the 4v5 matchup before, and that will be at the site of the number one seed or highest remaining seed if if in fact the number one seed is bounced in the first round. Uh, that Saturday will be the semifinals, and then the following Friday or Saturday will be the championship at the site of the highest remaining seed.
It'll be interesting to see how that play, like how that goes going forward. What the NCHC was one of the last couple conferences to host their tournament on neutral ice, being at the XL Energy Center. Um, but and it seemed to be successful. I mean, you look at the national championships; they were always there. So I wonder if that'll play a role and if we'll see any kind of decline there. I doubt it, just because of the brand of hockey shouldn't really change. Just
Well,
where they're playing it.
you still have Hockey East. They play their semifinals and championship at TD Garden in Boston. The ECAC, I believe, still plays their semifinals and championship up in Lake Placid.
Oh yeah,
But
yep.
I believe every other conference but those two have moved to entirely campus sites.
Yeah, Big Ten is on campus. They were I think they were in Detroit their first couple seasons.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
they're at the Joe and then Little Caesars Arena once that opened.
yep. And then CCHA, I don't think they ever were. I think they were always campus sites.
Yep.
So
And then Atlantic, I believe, has always been campus sites as well.
yeah. So about
But
half and half.
The new format reminds me of the old ECAC tournament from the '90s with the 4v5 matchup after the quarterfinals. I remember Yale hosting a couple of those games when I was a kid, and me personally, I like that added little wrinkle. You force a couple teams to play an extra game and see if that works to their advantage or to their detriment.
Right. To answer Paul's question, will they finish the first half against the rival? I don't think so. I think that first matchup's still just a fit it where they can get it type of thing. Miami and Western, they tend to open conference play or be really close to that first conference play weekend quite a bit, even when they were finishing the season against each other. There's been quite a few times where Duluth and St. Cloud have played each other like 2-3 weeks apart when they were running the last weekend together, which was interesting. I think was it the year after COVID where they had that weird series. They had to postpone a weekend or something, and so they played like a Tuesday, and then like a weekend series because they were the one weekend got messed up, and they hadn't played their early series like in the first half of the season. They'd saved it for the end for some reason. And then this year, I mean, North Dakota and Omaha, they've already finished all 4 of their games, and Duluth won them all, or not Duluth, North Dakota won them all. That was what I was going to ask you. Fireworks at the end of the Friday game between North Dakota and Omaha.
Ooh, yeah, that was I caught the clips of that, and it was, I mean, obviously suspensions for all involved in the fights, and just you haven't really seen anything like that since Arizona State up in Fairbanks and
Yep.
Tucker Ness going at it with I forget who the Alaska player was, but that's the last full on brouhaha that I've seen on the ice.
Yeah, and that Alaska team was trying to fight everybody because they had also tried to fight Omaha a couple weeks before that. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I know some people brought up the fact that like, oh, you have all these CHL players on Omaha, like we talked about a little bit earlier, and maybe that contributed to it. I doubt it was really that. I think that the Omaha team, even though it's new players every year, I think they hear that you have to beat North Dakota. You want to beat North Dakota. Everybody wants to beat North Dakota. And I think a little bit it was more frustration. I mean, I think they were out shooting North Dakota at that point. It was their goal. North Dakota goalie was playing lights out. Because you could say, oh, it's because they allow fighting at the minors. Well, there's fighting in the USHL too, and all those players have to adjust to not fighting at the NCAA level. So again, I don't necessarily think it's that. I think it was just a frustration level on losing your goalie early in that game, thinking maybe you have a chance to compete if he doesn't go down. not beating the goalie, and then just trying to set the tone like, hey, we're out of this game, but we're not, we're not giving up on the weekend type of thing, and just trying to do anything. And a lot of it was kind of senseless. And I think the retaliation from North Dakota on the hit was a little overblown. Did the Omaha player need to make the hit? No, but it wasn't egregiously dirty either. If you go back and watch that play, he doesn't hit him from behind. He's not really charging, like he's kind of coasting in, and it's a two-hand shove to the chest. It's not like a cross check, and the kid just kind of gets caught off on his edges and lands on his butt. And it's not into the boards or anything like that. So I think there's a little overreaction from North Dakota of like, hey, don't try and out physical us, and it just resulted in a lot of nonsense. And I think like an hour's worth of penalties on either side.
On you talk about a big hit that you know isn't necessarily a charge or anything penalty worthy. In Arizona State at Duluth this past weekend, Mike and I have talked about this on the side, but the hit by Adam Kleber on Kyle Smolin, and we actually had Mike Schmidt, the director of officiating for the NCHC, on College Hockey Coast to Coast last night, and we brought that hit up on the air, and his opinion of it was that it wasn't it wasn't truly interference. It's a hit that if he was on the ice, I don't think he would have called it a penalty as it was called in this game. From my vantage point, it certainly looked like Kleber left his feet and possibly made contact in the head and neck area. It was certainly a big hit. You saw Smolin need to get trainer assistance to get off the ice, and then he was visibly convulsing in the tunnel on the way back to the locker room. But you kind of Schmidt even alluded to the fact that sometimes there's sometimes cases where a game's going along so smoothly, you're kind of getting lulled into the sense of okay, there's really no penalties, and then something big does happen, and the knee-jerk reaction is to throw the arm up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even necessarily upset that they threw the arm up. I do think it was a high hit. Um, they had plenty of time to look at it. Mike and I kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago too. Like, it's just I don't understand the judgment calls that are being made. Like, I would agree that it was a high hit. I think it was worthy of a penalty. Um, and that the biggest issue wasn't so much that I was seeing that it was a penalty. It was how that's not interference. The puck is there. They're playing it. You could maybe lean charging if he was skating in, but I think he caught the coast at the right time. Um, and to look at it that long and then go, we're gonna call it interference when that doesn't. I don't know where you get interference on that at.
I agree with you that their interference definitely wasn't the call I would have made in that situation, and frankly, I've never heard of a 5 minute for interference in the first place.
I've definitely heard. I mean, maybe not at the college game, but I've definitely seen some 5 minute interferences. Um,
It was more the
oh, hey, thanks for joining the show, Mike. You're only
yeah. Good morning.
half hour late.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've been up since like 3 a.m. So um, my nap. I woke up to one alarm and then was gonna like go back to sleep, wake up for the next ones, and then all of a sudden, here you go. Um, I think to Tom's point, the refs they were getting lulled into it, and then something big happens, and then you're like, oh shoot, we need to call something. We're just not going to call it the correct thing. The penalty was warranted. It's just they didn't know exactly what penalty they needed to call, and so
I
they're
just
like,
don't understand because you got
interference.
Yeah, you got the two guys on the ice, and they have the rules official in the booth that is literally talking them through, and I think they can ask questions of like, hey, does it really fit this criteria? And he could say, I mean, it may, if that's really what you want to go with. Maybe you should look here. and like I said, after the review, because it was a pretty lengthy review too. They didn't just immediately call it interference, and then
It was 3 to 4 minutes. I
yeah,
wasn't keeping a clock on it, but it was a very long review.
and then to come up with that call, like, it was. I don't think they necessarily refed the result, which is fine. And I do think that happens from time to time too. You hear and see a big hit, and you look at the guy laying on the ice, and you make the call like, oh, that's clearly charging or checking from behind or something. And then you go look in the booth, and you're like, well, that was just a big hit, and the puck's right there, and he just kind of got dummied a little. We don't actually really have a penalty here, but we've already screwed up. So what do we do now? We see that situation quite a bit too, reffing the result as opposed to the play. And we try to give refs credit. Like, we know that there's a lot going on, and it's just the fact that, like, you see something and you don't necessarily understand why they see it that way or how they see it, and you're just like, all right, are we just making shit up here now? Like, and then you get being upset at refs who also don't know how to make calls with their chest, because I think you guys had one of the refs that Western had, who makes just the daintiest penalty calls, and I think he called that one too.
Yeah, you told me that. You're like, I'm pretty sure that was the ref from the Western series. I'm like,
can you just say it like you mean it? I don't care what it is.
Have some substance behind your calls.
Yeah, 5-minute penalty for shit. What do we say? Interference.
And for that one, I told Tom, so I'm surprised he didn't get a game for that one. Just looking back at the box score, I was like, oh.
Maybe there's been some big hits on interference. I was gonna say maybe they can't do 5 in a game for interference, but they totally can. I think Western's gotten one. I think like Austin Rushev or Tim Washy in his early days may have gotten called for interference and gotten 5 in a game when he was collecting majors like they were Pokemon cards.
Well, and the thing is, if it's a hit to the head like it was, you can go when you're reviewing it and be like, yeah, that's also a game, which I've seen it before too, and Wes and I have talked about it. I don't like that they can go and review if they miss the call on the ice, go review it, and then come back with a 5 in a game. This one, I believe it was called on the ice, a penalty just to start with. And then it's like, okay, now we can review it. We didn't miss this one. We're calling that a penalty to start with. But to go back and review, I don't like that thing where it's like either you're getting a 5 or you're getting nothing. Like,
Yeah, if I recall from that sequence, like the penalty was called on the ice, and it was immediately, this play is now under review for a potential major penalty. That's what I believe the sequence of events was. It wasn't, there was no challenge by Arizona State for potential major. It was just a straight up official review.
Yeah,
and I'm fine with that. It's the challenge, like, oh yeah, we're gonna review this for a potential major. Well, no, they missed it. Tough luck. They missed it. I don't like that aspect of it, but this one, I think they got it right, as much as it sucked. And we did kill it off. That was the kind of the one play of the game that I didn't see, where I was transitioning from upstairs to downstairs. But seeing the replay, I'm like, oh yeah, he definitely earned that 5 minutes.
Can we?
And not only did you guys kill it off, but Max Plant had a couple of solid shorthanded breaks that Connor Hasley stood on his head and did some good old fashioned goaltending. Paul's gonna always appreciate seeing a goaltender use his stick and poke check a guy.
Oh, those were some beautiful poke checks.
I don't remember. I think it was Denver, North Dakota. And it was a couple of years ago. This kind of goes to Mike's point about the review thing. Denver challenges for a missed penalty. They review it. I think they give the player from North Dakota a 5-minute major. Then Brad Berry challenges not to relook at the hit from his own player, but to look at a hit from a Denver player. So they go back in the booth and they review that one. And I think he lost that challenge, but they literally both coaches challenged for a potential major or a hit on the same play. And it was like, what are we doing here? We're sitting here for 15 minutes looking at plays that happened like 5-10 minutes ago. Like, can we get it? They missed the hit. Like, it sucks. I get it. But can we move on?
And that's the other thing about these challenges is there's got to be a time limit where you can challenge something, whether it be a hit, offside, whatever. You shouldn't be able to go back 5 minutes of game time and say, "Oh, I want to look at this, this specific instance."
Yeah, it was so bad. I think there was one this year that took forever. I think it might have been a review for a goal. I'm trying to look at my own Twitter profile to find it because I made mention of it. I was like, after the mid-period intermission, they've determined that it was a goal or a penalty, but it was just like, I mean, they're sitting there. It's like almost 10 minutes into this review, and it's like, come on, we could have replaced a piece of glass by now. What are we doing here? Because I think even some of it, it's you get to that point where it's like, all right, are you looking for, what are we doing here? The rule is, it always seems to be, no matter what the sport is, clear and obvious. If we're running frame by frame, we're not at clear and obvious anymore. Like it should, I don't know, what would be like 3 minutes? Should 3 minutes be enough to review a play? In my mind, I think so. You should get like 2 or 3 views. It should be full game speed. Should be your first look at it in the booth. Then maybe you get one at like 50%, one at 25%, and then the rest of them have to be at full speed, like full game speed. We shouldn't be making decisions frame by frame on something that's supposed to be clear and obvious to overturn or not. That's the thing. The play stands unless there's clear and obvious evidence to the contrary. And frame by frame is not clear and obvious.
I think frame by frame you do do need that a little bit, like for potential puck crossing the line.
Oh yeah,
right
I'll give it to you on goals and maybe even offsides. But even offsides, like that's another thing where there's got to be like, we can't be looking at a play 5 minutes. A team controls the puck for 5 minutes, scores a goal, and it turns out they were offsides entering the zone 5 minutes ago, and the opposing team touched the puck 3 times but couldn't clear it out of the zone. Like, what are we doing here? Plays like that, I think it's certain things just make sports unwatchable now, and it's
or if as far as the offside, if the guy's skate blade is an eighth of an inch,
or it turns out his back leg was in the air, but his front leg is in the offensive zone. Is he offsides? Is he not offsides? I've heard it both ways.
Which I think it depends on the league.
Yeah.
In that sense. But
again, stupid.
Like, again, if it's an eighth of an inch or a 16th of an inch offside, yes, by rule he is offside, but was that really the difference maker in that play? So I think there's some discretion that there needs to be within the rules and the replay and going frame by frame. And yeah, they want to get it right, but would it have made any sort of difference if his skate blade was touching the blue line versus that little sliver where he was off? Probably not. Now, if he's a full stride offside and they completely missed that, well, somebody's getting fired or at least reprimanded.
Turns out it was Western versus UMass Lowell, and it was an offsides call that took forever to review, and so kind of topical there. Also, I'm a great follow on Twitter. If you don't follow me, sometimes post some funny shit every once in a while. I get like one joke every month. That's a solid one.
Do what people follow.
Yeah. Self-plug.
One thing I do want to mention before Mike and I go 12 rounds on this weekend's action is the NCHC Players of the Week.
Oh, yep.
Bennett Shimek, Forward of the Week, Felipe Savoy, Defenseman of the Week from Colorado College, Jan Spoonar from North Dakota, Rookie of the Week, and Quentin Miller from Denver, Goaltender of the Week.
So, Mike, you weren't here to start the show off, but we would like one positive surprise to the midpoint of the season, and one negative surprise to the midpoint of the season. Could be your own team, could be a different team, whatever you want to do. There's something positive that surprised you to the midpoint, and something not so great.
Yeah, the positive surprise for me is the fact that I think we're now it's either 43 or 44 14 that we've outscored teams for UMD on Fridays. Did not think that was going to happen, and the fact that we're 10-0 on Friday games. Did not think that was going to be happening this year. I figured we'd have a solid year, but that part really surprises me, and not going to complain about it. If I'm going my own team, the negative, the fact that we keep going into overtime for the most part on Saturdays, or just losing on Saturdays, that's a negative surprise. But in a sense, that's not as much a surprise. I think Omaha, where they sit, is a negative surprise between them, and then Western struggling as much as they have, instead of carrying over the momentum. I didn't think they'd be having as much trouble as they are.
Well, it turns out, and I'm not allowed to say much or go into any specifics, but it turns out that the injury issues that Western was facing may have been more significant than otherwise let on. Guys were playing through some stuff that was, Western keeps a lot of that stuff closer to the chest than a lot of teams. So it turns out there may have been more injuries on the team than just the big ones that have taken players out of games. And they're really using, and Ferschweiler kind of alluded to that in his last post game conference, or last post game show. Have a good night, Paul. That they're really going to use the break here, not playing last week, not playing this weekend, not playing until Milwaukee at the end of the month, to heal up some of the, the bumps and bruises, but also some of the more significant injuries that have been plaguing the team that guys were playing through. So that may have to do with some of it, just limiting guys what they can do, or guys playing through some stuff that maybe they didn't feel they had the depth to take those players out. So that could be something to think about, and see if they're better in the second half of the season or not. I think they might be, and just getting those guys acclimated to the team, and being the players that I think we all believe that team could be. But yeah, they're not quite where we expected them to be, but I still have a lot of faith in that coaching staff and that team as a whole. I think guys are really starting to find their groove. Whitelaw has come on lately, leads the team in points and goals right now. Hampton's settling in a little bit and getting better here and there, but it's still a ways to go, and they certainly haven't played their best hockey yet.
And they're still in a better spot in the standings than what I've seen them play. Omaha is kind of the bigger surprise after them finally making it to St. Paul. yes, I know they brought in a lot of new players, but you would have thought there was some reason to the rhyme that they were putting together with bringing in all these CHL players, and they knew what they were doing. They just haven't gelled, and now they're sitting in eighth place in the conference.
Yep.
And I don't think anyone had that expectation coming into the year. Now, no team really does, but Miami's kind of like, we know we're building. They're really the only team that's like, yeah, we kind of understand it. But
Yeah.
Omaha, they had their sights set way higher, and to see where they're at now, that's a negative surprise.
Yeah, I had Omaha pegged on that 4-5 line. I was saying to Wes earlier, I had them fighting for home ice in the first round, and just to see what's been going on, and Lacosi going down really doesn't help matters for them either.
No, no, it doesn't.
All right, boys, I will let you take over the conversation for a little bit while you talk about your series and trash talk each other. And I'm just going to watch because my team didn't play this week.
Us trash talk? We would never do that.
No, not at all.
It was, in all honesty, it was a good,
I,
hard fought series. You guys definitely had the edge on Friday night, and notwithstanding your undefeated streak on Fridays, but Arizona State just could not generate any momentum, and you jumping out to the lead early, and then just kind of from there on out, and it was just kind of depressing to see after the opening period, and then Duluth with 2 goals in the second and the empty netter in the third.
Yeah, and actually, no, you guys, I think you guys were up 1-0, and then we ended up tying it up. We only had one power play on Friday night, and it was a late power play goal. And so still one of the best things, because I messaged you, Tom, and I said, don't go to the box against this team. You
Yeah,
just can't go to the box.
yeah, Plant just buried in the back of the net on that power play coming up on midway through the second. It was a really beautiful goal by Ty Nash to open the scoring for the Sun Devils. It was a brief glimmer of what I've been hoping to see out of the Sun Devils all season long, just crisp tape-to-tape passing, and McGurn found Nash on the opposite side and just beat guy on, stole his lunch money basically.
Yeah, and
guy keeps his water bottle on a leash.
And
but you know what?
then just the remaining 40 minutes, couldn't do anything. Had that 5-minute power play that we were talking about when you jumped on, and it looked almost like it looked like it was even strength, just the way that you guys were just outworking and out muscling on the play, and those couple of breakaways on for Plant shorthanded. But you don't win many games when you're getting outshot 2-1. It was the second game of the season where ASU was held under 20 shots, and I was looking at even just the shot attempts. It was something disgusting, like 63-38 in favor of Duluth.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and in full honesty, I thought they were playing later, and all of a sudden, after football on Saturday, I was like, wait, what? UMD already played? So I didn't see anything. I thought the game was later. I was thinking a 6 o'clock Central start, and then I was like, oh yeah, I'll catch. Missed that, but um, just based off of the score and everything that I saw Saturday, it was the same thing Sandlin's been kind of saying, where it's how do we harness the Friday team and bring them into Saturday because we got doubled up 6-3. And going into the second half of the year, like, yeah, I'm happy where the team is standing as far as conferences, but you can't go in basically Jekyll and hiding the deal as soon as you get to postseason play because you go into those one game eliminations. Right now we're a tournament team, and you shared with me your bracketology, and we're sitting seventh. You can't go in not knowing what team you're going to get because you could get the Friday UMD team that is stellar on the power play, locked down defensively, giving up the one goal. Guyon's playing out of his mind. There's not giving up any really high danger chances. Or are you going to get the Saturday team that gives up 6 goals or goes into overtime and gives everybody a freaking heart attack every single weekend? And I was surprised to see the score just because of, I think we had 2 or 3 weekends in a row overtime or a shootout on the Saturday game. So to see us get humbled a little bit, that surprised me.
And same goes for Arizona State. Just in reverse, it was a very Jekyll and Hyde weekend for us as well. Saturday's game was the closest to a complete game that I've seen Arizona State play this season. The one gripe that I would have to it is finding scoring outside of the top line. That top line of I refer to them as the 3M line: Bennett Shimmick, Bruce Lucius, and Colin Potter, all born and raised in Minnesota. That was the highlight reel of the game for Arizona State, with Shimmick getting the hat trick. But finding more consistent scoring up and down the lineup across the 4 lines, not being so heavily reliant on the top line, which is something that you see with the Bulldogs as well. In my preview that I sent over to you on Thursday, 45% of Duluth's scoring came from the Plant Bay line. And while the Bulldogs do play a solid shutdown defense and don't allow teams to get a lot of quality scoring chances, as was shown on Friday, it's that lack of depth for you guys as well that's going to be a concern as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think Truman, he's one that stepped up, but even in your preview, even though he's not on the line, I like to call them the PPSH for the submachine gun: Plant, Shagabe, and Hansen, because Hansen is the one defenseman that really has shown offensive prowess.
Yes.
Kleber, he'll do it, but it's those four really are our offense. And then Truman will step in. You'll have other guys chip in here, there. Truman's just the one that he's an agitator as well, but he can score. Because in our Gophers series, he was getting into it with somebody just off the face-offs, and I'm like, well, now he's going to stick out in my mind just because of watching how he played. But yeah, the depth, you said it in your preview. If you can shut down that line, well, who's really going to beat you? And it really does hold true. You might get lucky with a tip in here, a tip in there, or garbage goal. Outside of our top line, there's not much going on, and those guys need to get going.
Yeah, and to your point about Kleber and how he can step up in the offensive play, it's not his go-to playing style. His playing style is be a big body on the blue line, and as you saw with the we talked about the hit on Smolin, whether it was clean hit or not, it was still the style of play that he is known for. Big 6'5" guy. That is exactly what he is enlisted to do. He's not going to be a guy that jumps up into the offensive play with regularity. If anything, like you said, get tip-ins down in front. He's going to be that guy to create traffic in front of the net and disrupt the goaltender, push defenders out of the way to clear a path for his other forwards.
Yeah, and like I would like to see more from Joey Pierce. You know, you, he's their captain. You need to step up. You can lead in different ways, but as a captain, probably should be contributing a little bit more instead of the sophomore line.
Joey Pierce strikes me in a similar way as Ethan Schmaggy last year for Arizona State. Schmaggy was a healthy scratch a lot of the games, which was curious to see how Coach Powers rewarded his captain. But very similar vein where it's he's not a strictly offensive contributor, and you're looking for what that added value is elsewhere on the ice or in the locker room.
It's like I think on the 2019 team, Parker McKay that we had, he was the captain, and he was not a very offensive guy. I don't even know if he was on the third line. He might have been a fourth liner, but not very much offensive, but contributed in other ways. There's just a certain aspect where I don't think you should be allowing those lower lines to struggle as much offensively. Like, figure out ways to motivate them as a captain and get them to contribute more and more than, as nice as it is to have our first line. Hey guys, this is great and all, but we got to help them out because they can't do everything for you. They can try, and they're sure as hell gonna try, but it's not gonna be there every night. That's like, um, simply put, any basketball team LeBron has been on, relying on him to have it every single night, and him not having it, well, then you're probably gonna lose because most of the time they're paying him way too much money. But relying on one player to get things done on a basketball team, and if they don't have it, nobody else has stepped up, well, you're probably going to lose that game. And that's where UMD is, where even if they don't step up offensively, they still might not do it defensively on that Saturday. And just, I need that little bit more of leadership from some of the guys who have been there and done that already.
And that reliance purely on the top line can only go for so long. These guys, guys are going to wear down during the season, and God forbid, what happens if one of those top guys gets injured? Who's going to step up and assume that role? You're not going to replace a Max Plant if he goes down, even if he's out for if he's out for a series or a series and a half. That's a big hole to lose for 3 games. And you said it perfectly. The rest of the guys on the throughout the other 3 lines have to show they can step up and play that role. Same with Arizona State. Need to have the depth scoring, depth performance out of the bottom 3 lines.
How are you doing over there, Wes?
Fantastic. I mean, I watched both of those games. I think they were quite enjoyable to watch back and forth. It's kind of what you want in hockey. Definitely, I think even though Friday they struggled a little bit, I think Arizona was the slightly deeper team. Having watched Duluth play, I think basically 2 straight weeks because they were here before this
By the way,
series.
it's Arizona State, not
Arizona
Arizona.
State. Whatever.
Come on,
There's only one Arizona in the NCHC, okay?
Paul would have reached through the computer and smacked you.
Complete side note, Tom, you'll get this. I think I was playing somebody in MLB The Show, and they had Arizona Sun Devils, and I reported their name because it was not Arizona State.
Bravo.
Well, Mike's a better person than I am, okay? But I think Arizona State was a slightly deeper team. And I think some of that will still come. We do still have to remember that Duluth is a pretty young team still, and they're still developing and growing together as a team. So I think they're in a really good spot as far as that goes. I think I told Mike a couple weeks ago, like I expect them to be near the top at the end of this season, but I really expect them to be there next season. I think next season's going to be one where they can control their fate, and like this year you capitalize on mistakes of other teams. Next year you control your own destiny, and you enforce your will on other teams because you've had 3 years with some of those guys, and they'll be the leaders of that team. And you really start developing and showing that like this is what we're waiting for through those kind of mediocre years of the last few years. Honestly, the other entertaining series of the weekend was Colorado College and Miami. I don't know if you guys caught any of those games, but just two back and forth hockey games. Miami had a pretty good lead on the Friday game. Colorado College was able to fight back and I think stole the lead late in the third before Miami tied it and forced overtime, and they go to the shootout. Miami wins the shootout Friday. And then Miami kind of controls a lot of the game Saturday. Colorado College fights back, gets it to overtime, and ends up winning the shootout on Saturday. And Miami was really like one save away from taking 4 points away from Colorado College. But just two entertaining and fun hockey games to watch, even though a lot of people dressed up like seats down there in Oxford.
And they were excited to catch up on. I really like I'm really liking David Deputy and how he's stepping up for Miami. And then Ilya Morozov is just a real top end talent. It's going to be absolutely exciting to see where he goes in next year's draft. And he.
Oh no! OBS, what'd you do? Okay, apparently it's back. So there might be a small glitch on the YouTubes. We just came back from it, but we're all right. Yeah, I mean the only
we just came back from commercial. I'm like, when did we get commercials?
Well, it looked like we were fine. And then the only downside to watching a Miami game, if they're at Miami, and I hate to say this, but I also don't at the same time, their radio guy has got to figure out how to just let some stuff go every once in a while. Like, if there is a bad call in the first 5 minutes of the first period, you're still hearing about it in the last 5 minutes of the third period. Like, dude, you had like 3 hours. Just let it go.
The other thing they've got to figure out is their sound equalization, because it is, you're either getting your ears blown off or it sounds like they're broadcasting from across the football field.
Yes, that too. But just, I don't even remember what play it was. Was it the, you know what? I think it was waving off a goal. It was. They took a goal away for goalie interference. I think it was to tie it. It would have tied it Friday, or would it have given Miami the win in regulation?
I think it would have. I think it would have.
I think it would have given them the win.
I think it would have been. I think it was in overtime. I think it would have been a winner in overtime.
Yeah. It would have, because they ended up having to finish overtime. That's what it was, and it was like at the halfway mark of overtime. And now the Miami player does make contact with Umberto inside the crease before the shot is made. Now he then leaves the crease and is at the top of the crease, and Umberto reinitiates contact as like the puck is actually shot. But dude, the dude's just over the top complaining about it, and like it was again, it's one of these things where you're watching the replay, the fourth replay in slow motion. You're like, all right, how much time is actually going by here? Did the initial contact really interfere with Umberto? Well, I don't know because we're on 0.25 speed. And it's taking 3 seconds to watch 1 second. Like, can we let me see it again in real time, and I'll let you know if I really think it's interference. But it's
Yeah,
like,
I'll go back to our conversation we had with Mike Schmidt last night. I believe he was in the building for that game, and he even said, a skater, skater backing into the crease like that and making contact with a goalie of his own accord without being pushed into the goaltender, that's still going to be called 9 times out of 10.
oh, I saw the goaltender interference. I'm not like, I think they made the right call, but it was when you're listening to their radio
Oh,
guy and the way like he's complaining about it, like you think it's the most egregious thing that like he was outside of the crease and it was really Emberko that made contact, which Emberko does make contact with the skater when he's since left the crease and Emberko kind of chases him to the top of it. Like, don't get me wrong, that does happen. But they're just I think what they called goaltender interference was the contact before the contact as the puck is actually coming into Emberko and the player's no longer in the crease. And that's where I
right.
get like, oh, okay, they're calling it there, but let me see the play in real time. Stop slowing it down so much, because now I get where he's arguing too, because you're like, oh, all this time has passed, and Berko almost does kind of reset and then initiates contact to try and draw the goaltender interference. But if you watch it and it's contact, skates up, shot, it's boom, 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 boom. Like, oh, okay, he did actually interfere with him a little bit, and as in Berkeley, you know what I mean? Like, the real time play shows me more than the fifth slowed down replay.
Yep, absolutely.
But I think I get what you're saying too, though, Wes, where on a radio broadcast, especially with what you get with NCHC TV, you're not always getting a TV broadcast. But it's the home team. You're going to get some homerism.
That dude,
It's
I think that dude's the
it's a
worst in the
little
league.
bit more egregious. So like the person driving in your car, like say, I'm listening to Bruce Siski heading up to go deer hunt, and he's describing something. I can't see it. I can't make that determination.
Yeah,
Bruce, love him. He's very good at what he does. Sometimes I have to take what he's saying with a grain of salt because he is the UMD play-by-play guy, and there is that Homer favoritism. But sounds like this guy makes it sound like
dude, he's
there was a murder on the ice and he
basically,
can't let it go.
yeah, especially if it's against a Miami player. Like, I think he's honestly like the worst in the league for it, and I think he's been. I think he's been talked to about some of his comments about refs too. Like, hey, like you gotta tone it down a little bit, dude. Like you're crossing a line here.
Is he the Hawk Harrelson of the NCHC?
I don't know who that is, but I'm probably.
Chicago White Sox broadcaster from the 2000s, 2010s. Just
Oh,
look him up when you get a spare moment.
yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm a Tigers fan. I listen to Tigers people.
Or the Bruins TV announcers, those guys.
Do not speak ill against Jack Edwards in my presence.
But it's like, dude, you gotta settle down. You're talking more about a play that happened 10 minutes ago than the shots. Because oh, dude, that game winner on Friday was gross. I don't know if you guys like saw the highlights of that one, but that goal that kid from Miami ripped, disgusting.
I mean, that's exactly the point I was making about him. Morozov is he's going to be a scary talent at the next level.
And almost got another one on Saturday. Missed it by like not much.
Yep.
To keep that shootout going. Yeah, no. We're a little over an hour. I think this is probably as good a spot as any to wrap her up. One series this weekend, that is Omaha at Augustana, Friday and Saturday. Game time is 7 Central on Friday, 6 Central on Saturday. And then the
That should be a
following,
good one. Augustana's good.
yep. Yeah,
And
dude, they're
then,
playing really well. And then
then the following weekend after Christmas, Arizona State travels to Dartmouth. Other NCHC teams in action. Miami will be taking part in the Great Lakes Invitational up in Grand Rapids, and Western Michigan will be playing in the holiday face-off at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee.
ooh, wait, did they change that? Oh no, that's right. That'll be 8 Eastern. And then Tuesday, December 30th, Omaha hosts Manitoba in an exhibition game. So we might have that on while we're chatting it up right before the reset to the season.
My reset of the season will be spent in the Great White North of the Twin Cities for the World Junior Tournament. I know Mike's gonna maybe make his way in and socialize for a little bit.
Allegedly.
Gonna try. Hey, it was 42 here, so they turned the heat back on.
I saw the heat bill got
Balmy.
paid. It's looking like it's supposed to be relatively not awful when I land on the 26th.
Shorts and t-shirt weather right there, big boy.
Oh yeah, I was shoveling off the driveway. I had my jacket on, and I'm like, why am I wearing my jacket?
We're built different up here.
I don't understand that sentence. Shoveling off the driveway.
Don't you spend time in New York?
Not during the winter.
Solid argument, touche. It's similar to putting the sand back in the dunes when the wind blows through, right?
Yeah, sounds about right. You know, working the sand trap, raking it back together.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're gonna wrap this bad boy up. No more Midwest goodbyes. That's Mike down there. That's Tom over there. Thank you for joining me early on time, Tom, and thanks for finally figuring your way here, there, Michael. If we don't see you, happy holidays, happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I think that's all there is to it. One last thing, Pucks.net, good things happen. Like Gold Horns and Fight Songs. Till the next one, we're out here. Deuces.